Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I created for you this glamorous summer makeup look. I absolutely love how it turned out, so if you want to see how I achieved this look, then just keep on watching. Okay, so to start, I used the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot. I really like this eyeshadow primer because it conceals and covers any sort of veins or redness that you may have on your eyelids. And I'm buffing this out with a IT Cosmetics Concealer Blending Brush. And I'm putting this all over her lid from inner corner all the way up to her brow bone. And I really like this too because it makes your eyeshadow last all day long. Okay, so now I'm going to set that eyeshadow base that I just put down with any sort of like skin colored eyeshadow. Today I'm using the Makeup Forever M510 eyeshadow. But you can use like your face powder or like a translucent powder to set that. But I like doing this because it really helps blend out all the eyeshadows that we put on top. And I'm using the Morphe M502 brush to apply this eyeshadow. And I really love these brushes by Morphe, so definitely go check out their site if you're looking for affordable brushes that are really good quality. Now I'm using that same Morphe brush, and the eyeshadow that I'm using is by Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's the color Orange Soda, and this is going to be our first transition shade on her eyes. I really like this color because it's just a shade darker than her skin tone, so using colors like this really helps create a nice gradient effect once you start building up other eyeshadows. And I'm just using windshield wiper motions. And you don't have to be neat with this at all because it is such a subtle color, but it really does make a difference in the end. Now I'm going in with Caramel. This is also an eyeshadow by Anastasia Beverly Hills. And it's just a shade or two darker than that first eyeshadow we put down. And I'm doing this pretty much in the same place I did the other one. It's just going to start deepening up the crease and giving your eyes a little more depth. Now I'm going in with a MAC 224 brush. I'm doing this to blend those two eyeshadows together. This brush is clean, so I'm not applying any sort of additional product. And I like to do this just to make sure that everything's super blended and there aren't any harsh lines. Now I'm going in with one of my absolute favorite eyeshadows. This is by ColourPop Cosmetics, and it's in the color Amaze because it's amazing. I see why they named it that. Anyways, it's like a light rose gold, and I'm just applying it from inner corner and kind of feathering it into the outer corner, just so I'm not covering up any of that work that I put down earlier. And I really love this eyeshadow. It's like one of those eyeshadows that you just get complimented on every time you wear it. I don't know, I just love it. So I'm just applying that with my finger. You can use a brush, but I just find that these eyeshadows work best if you use your finger. Now I'm going in with Magic Act. This is a foiled eyeshadow by Makeup Geek, and I'm using a tiny little precision brush by MAC. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I will list it down below in the description box if you want to check it out. And I'm just focusing this on the inner corner of her eye and just kind of dragging whatever's left over outwards towards that rose gold eyeshadow that we just put down. The color I'm using right now is called Shroom, and it's by MAC. It's kind of like a pearly white eyeshadow, and I'm just using this to further highlight that inner corner. I am going to go back later and highlight the inner corner even more, but I just wanted to lay this down as kind of a base color. The final eyeshadow I'm going to use is by Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is in the shade Morocco. It's kind of like a terracotta rust colored eyeshadow. I really like it. It looks beautiful on every single eye color. I always gravitate towards this eyeshadow just because it's stunning. Anyways, I'm focusing this mostly on the outer V of her eye and kind of dragging it up into the crease just a little bit. And I'm using a MAC 217 brush to do this. I didn't want to make her eyes too dark or too dramatic, so I kind of liked how it turned out with just adding this eyeshadow just at the end, just to add a little bit more depth. Today I'm using the Tattoo Liner by Kat Von D in the shade Trooper, which is just black. And I'm applying a really thin line super close to her lashes. I didn't want to do anything super dramatic or dark or a wing or anything like that, only because I wanted the eyes to look kind of more simple and fresh and youthful. But I do feel like it's really important to do this step if you are going to apply false lashes, only because sometimes you can kind of see the inner corner of where the lash band starts. So if you do this step, it'll help conceal the lashes even more. And another trick is if you lift up on the eyebrow like I'm doing right now, it kind of lifts away any sort of like tiny wrinkles the client may have on their eyelid, and it helps you make your eyeliner super smooth and it won't make it bumpy or anything like that. I find that this really helps when applying eyeliner on myself and on other people. Now I'm just applying a quick coat of mascara. I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. This is the best mascara ever. I absolutely love it. And I'm kind of putting my thumb on her eyelid just to make sure that none of the mascara gets on her eyeshadow. Now I'm applying some Ardell Wispies. I'm using Duo Glue. And you always want to make sure that you give your glue about 60 seconds to get tacky before you apply it to your eyes. And it just makes it way easier once you let your glue get a little bit tacky first. And all those white dots will dry to a clear or black finish. And now I'm applying some individual lashes. I'm kind of placing them randomly throughout her eyes. I have her look at me every time I apply one just so I can kind of see how it looks whenever her eyes are open. And to do this, I'm using tweezers to apply them. And how I do this, I usually take like 20 of the individual lashes out of the pack, and I'll stick them on the back of my hand, and then I'll just put some lash glue into like the empty lash tray, and I'll just pull the lashes off my hand and dunk them in the glue, and then I'll just stick them right on her lash strip. You don't want to stick these on the actual lashes, but just stick them right on top of that lash strip that you just applied, and it really gives like a unique effect to the eyes. I really love how individual lashes look. Okay, finally, time for the face. So to start, I'm just going to take a makeup wipe and remove any sort of residue or hairspray or anything that may be on her face. I always like to start with a super clean canvas, and if there's any sort of product on her face or hairspray or anything like that, it will affect the finish of your makeup. So you always want to make sure that the face is super clean. And this makeup wipe also gets rid of any sort of fallout you may have had from your eyeshadow. That's why I like doing the eyes first, because you can make sure that everything is super clean in the end. To prep her skin, I'm using the Ultra Repair Cream by First Aid Beauty, and I'm applying this with a damp beauty blender. I'm just pouncing this all over her face and pushing it into her skin. And you always want to make sure that you use a beauty blender damp. Just kind of wring it out under running water until it kind of doubles in size, and then you're good to go. You never want to use these dry because it kind of defeats the purpose of them. So yeah, just blending this into her skin. Usually after I apply it with the beauty blender, I'll go back in with my fingers and just make sure that everything is nice and moisturized and blended in. Now I'm going in with the Makeup Forever Smoothing Primer. This is just going to smooth out her skin. And if you have any like fine lines or deep pores, I highly recommend you try a product like this. It really does help the appearance of your skin once your makeup is complete. Here I'm using the Tatcha Dewy Skin Mist. This is just going to add extra luminosity to her skin. And now I am using the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector in Opal. This is the liquid version. And I'm applying this underneath her foundation, and I'm also going to mix this in with her foundation just to make her skin look really dewy and glowy and healthy. For foundation today, I'm using Kojen Do Aqua Foundation. She is in the shade 143, and I'm just applying this all over her face with a Smashbox foundation brush. I absolutely love this foundation. It's super flawless, and it looks stunning in photos and in person. And I like applying it with a brush and then going in and blending it out with a beauty blender. I feel like it just gives a lot more of a seamless finish. And you have a little bit more control whenever you lay down the product with a brush first. Look how excited she is for foundation. Now I'm just blending everything out with a beauty blender. This one is also damp. And I'm just kind of pushing the foundation into her skin. You never want to use swiping motions whenever you're doing foundation. You always want to use kind of patting motions. And I find that beauty blenders are really the best way to apply foundation. It just makes everything look so airbrushed and flawless. I know beauty blenders are kind of expensive, but if you have the money, I highly recommend you get one because they are absolutely life-changing. And it just makes everything better when you have a beauty blender. Now I'm going in with NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. This is in the shade Custard, and I'm just applying this in an upside down triangle shape underneath her eyes. And now I'm just blending out that concealer I just put down. I had already put a little bit of Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer underneath the eye I'm blending out now. And you'll see in a second here I apply it to the other side as well. And the shade I'm using in the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer is Light Neutral. And I also apply it to her upper lip, a little on her chin, and then I start blending that out as well. I really like this concealer, the Urban Decay one, because it applies to the skin so smoothly. Like, the applicator is unlike any other concealer. I absolutely love the way it glides onto the skin. And it just looks really flawless, and it's super full coverage, but it's not super heavy, if that makes sense. Now I'm setting the under eye area with the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder. To do this, I'm using a cosmetic wedge, and as you can see, I'm applying a lot of powder. This isn't necessary, but I feel like it brightens the under eye area even more if you let it sit there for a few minutes. And this method also keeps everything from creasing, and it keeps the concealer in place all day long. You can also use a brush, or you can use that beauty blender to do this as well. Either way works. I'm applying that same Urban Decay concealer to her nose. I'm using my finger only because I feel like I can get a thinner line down the center of her nose. And after I apply that, I'm just going to blend it out with a mini beauty blender. And these are great because they really get into those small areas. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He's squeaking his toy in the background, but just blending this out just the same way I did the under eyes. And now I'm just wiping away all that excess powder that was underneath her eyes. As you can see, I just kind of made it a little bit brighter. And to do this, I'm using the Kat Von D Shade and Light face brush. It's like a dual-ended brush, and it didn't come with, but it was meant for her Shade and Light contour palette, but I love it for this purpose. Setting her nose with that same translucent powder. And now it's time to contour. Today I'm using a cream bronzer first. I'm using the Soleil Tan de Chanel. It's kind of pricey, but it really looks absolutely stunning. It doesn't even look like you have any like product on your face. And to do this, I'm just using a Duo Fiber Brush by Sigma. I'll link the exact brush I use down below. But I really like this brush. It worked really well with this product. And I'm just applying this around her temples and underneath her cheekbones. I like to kind of swirl the brush around in the product, and then I'll kind of take off the excess on the back of my hand. And then I'll just start doing like small circular motions and blending it into the skin. And I'm sorry if I sound like super raspy. I'm recording this at like 2 in the morning, but I don't know, I just felt like my last video, I wanted to explain things more, so I bought a mic and now I'm doing voiceovers for you guys so I can kind of explain like tips and tricks along the way. I hope you guys like it. And you always want to be careful when you're doing like bronzer on girls with blonde hair. Like you can turn their like baby hairs around their forehead and stuff orange really quickly, so always like I try to pull back those hairs and just make sure that none of them get any product on them, or else they'll kind of look like they have like an orange ring around their heads. That's never cute. Now I'm going in with Champagne Pop. This highlighter is by Becca Cosmetics, and it is limited edition. It was in collaboration with Jaclyn Hill. I'm not sure if it's still in stock. I'm pretty sure it is, but if it is, I'll link it down below. This highlighter is everything, you guys. If you don't have it and you've been wanting to try a highlighter, I really recommend you guys go and get this one. Like, I promise you will not be disappointed. And I'm just applying this with a Smashbox fan brush. I will link this brush down below if it's still available. I got it a long time ago. And I'm just putting that on the tops of her cheekbones and a little bit above her brows, just to kind of illuminate her face all over. I also like to put some of that highlighter on the Cupid's bow, and then I'll even go in and put like a little bit down the center of her nose. Whenever I get to the tip of the nose, I kind of just like to dot it, like just to kind of make the nose look a little more lifted, as you can see right there. And I'm sticking a little bit of that highlighter on the inner corners of her eye as well, just to kind of bring everything together. I'm just brushing through the brows with this Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow brush. It's dual-sided. It's got a spoolie on one end and like a really thin angled brush on the other. I love this brush for brows. And today I'm just using the Taupe Brow Powder Duo. Sorry, it took me a minute to get that out. And I'm just lightly filling in her brows. I feel like if your brows are already pretty full, you can just use a powder. If your brow hairs are more sparse, or if you have a lot of spaces, I would go in with the Brow Wiz by Anastasia Beverly Hills. That's a great product. But if you have like full brows like her, you can just go in with a powder and it'll look really good. If you've never filled in your eyebrows, I highly recommend you start doing it. I only say this because I didn't start filling mine in until like a year and a half ago, and it makes such a big difference. Like, you will be amazed by how much better your makeup looks. It just kind of really brings everything together. And right now I'm going in with a clear brow gel to set that brow powder I just put down. You don't really need to do this step if you're using the pomade or the Brow Wiz, because those are both waterproof. Now I'm just being OCD and going over that lash band with a liquid liner. This one's by NYC. This stuff is like $2 and I swear it is so black. Like, it's so black, I can't even get over it. And I'm just going right over that lash band just to make sure you can't see any like lash glue or eyeshadow or anything like that. And I picked up this eyeliner from Target, but I'm pretty sure that it's in drugstores too. I'm going in with that same concealer I used earlier and a Sigma concealer brush, and I'm just cleaning up underneath her brows. Again, this step is optional, but I just feel like it makes everything look a little bit more polished. Now going in with a powder bronzer. This is Refined Golden by MAC. I know it's in limited edition packaging, but this is a permanent item in their collection, and I'm just setting that cream bronzer that I put down earlier in all the same places. I hope they make this brush permanent. It's like a double-sided brush, but you can just use any powder brush that's kind of similar in size for this exact same step. Using Hoola by Benefit, I'm just further contouring her cheeks. This color is more of an ashy tone, so it really helps mimic shadows in like the hollows of your cheekbones. And I'm using a 163 brush by MAC. And now just a little bit of that same bronzer on her nose using a NARS Ita brush. I like to do a little on the sides and also a little underneath the tip of the nose, as well as a little underneath her bottom lip. For blush today, I'm using Milani Luminoso. You can get this at your local drugstore, and I'm using this NARS brush. I can't pronounce it, but I'll link it down below. Going back to Champagne Pop, I'm just highlighting underneath her brow bone. I'm using that same tiny precision brush by MAC, and this is just gonna make her brow bone pop and kind of like tie into that highlight that's on her cheekbone. And to finish off the eyes, I'm going to go in with Caramel, that same eyeshadow that I used earlier. And I'm smoking this out underneath her lashes with a Makeup Geek small crease brush. And you don't have to be neat with this. And now going in with a darker eyeshadow, I'm just doing this really closely to her lashes. And this is with a Sigma flat definer brush. This is just going to make the bottom lash line look a little bit more smoky. I love how that looks. And now for the inner rim of her eye, I'm going to go in with the Inner Rim Liner by Tarte. And this is just in a nude color. It's just going to make your eyes look more open. And finally, for the bottom mascara, I'm using the Skinny Mascara by NYX. You can get this at Ulta, I think it's at Target, and maybe some drugstores too. But this is a really great bottom lash mascara. And I think it's like $3. Alright, so here's the finished makeup look. I will list all of the lip products that I used down below in the description box. Let me know if you guys liked this video. Just give it a thumbs up if you did, and leave me a comment of what you want to see for my next one. I had a great time filming this, so you guys subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching.